right, welcome back. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. You see on the screen if you're watching, in fact, in the Heisen Lincoln Law Firm chat room on Warchant. He's the pitching coach at Florida State. Micah Posey joins us on the Jeff Cameron Show. Hey, Coach, first of all, thanks for joining us. Always appreciate it. And secondly, how much fun has this been for you? I mean, down the stretch we come, meaningful games at Hauser, huge series this weekend, starting tonight, obviously, against NC State. And Elliott Avent comes in here. It feels like he's been coaching forever. We've seen great battles between Florida State and NC State over the years. This feels like it's the way it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, NC State's always going to be a team that's going to fight. They're going to be gritty. They're always tough. To have games like this in Hauser, top 25 matchup at the end of the season, that certainly feels right. As far as enjoying it as a pitching coach, obviously, there's some games we enjoy more than others, but it's good to see kind of Florida State back in the limelight where it needs to be at the top. And, we're excited about this weekend.
You've had to piece it together, man. The emphasis has been on you. I mean, you had to do a lot this year. Hey, I have a quick question that's an aside before I get into the piecing it together part of it. I was debating – I love baseball. I've told you this before, and I watch nightly. So a friend of mine got into an argument about 0-2 philosophies. I said, well, I'm talking to the pitching coach tomorrow. I'll ask him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you like this. This is a baseball nerd argument. Here you go.
This is good. I like this.
Okay, so we legitimately had an argument about this. I won't tell you what I said, and I won't tell you what he said because I want to hear you, and I don't want him to think that I've somehow poisoned the well from your response. So here you go. What is your philosophy? What do you believe in? What do you tell your guys, teach your guys on 0-2 counts?
So 0-2, you're basically trying to throw a ball outside the zone, like you don't want to throw it in the zone. I think the best pitches 0-2 are pitches that look like strikes, but they end up being balls. So we call it strike to ball. The uncompetitive ball, it never looks like a strike. It's a waste pitch. You don't want to waste pitches 0-2, in my opinion. Greg Max had a philosophy on that, like an 0-2 waste pitch. It just gets it back to 1-2. Now you got to make the same pitch again. So 0-2, you're trying to throw a ball outside the zone, but you want it to look like a strike and end up being a ball. And sometimes there's a fine line that guys cross. And I feel like, we've given up a fair share of 0-2 hits lately. And when we do, I've heard Link be like, that's 0-2, he'll let me know about it. But, I don't get, those things don't just slide under the rug. We hear about those, but 0-2, you want to throw a ball, but you want it to look like a strike.
So this is, truthfully, that's how we got into the conversation. Like that, me and this guy, he played baseball. We both are baseball nerds, and we noticed that we'd given up quite a few 0-2 hits recently.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
So, I mean, and we're both Noles, so we were like frustrated, and we were going back and forth on that. And I said, well, I promise you, they're not telling him to throw it over the middle. And
no.
So I wanted to pick your brain.
Yeah, there's some times where you're throwing to a half of a plate and you're trying to throw it kind of off that half, and you might leave it to the other half and it gets hit. And sometimes, when you're facing good lineups like Wake and Duke, they're not going to let you get away with 0-2 mistake as maybe some other lineups might. So for us, getting better 0-2, and it seems like it's poking up like middle to backside of the game when it really means something. I think at Wake it burned us in game one quite a bit. So basically want to expand the zone and not give the hitter something good to hit for sure.
It's a weird question to say it this way or to phrase it this way, but you have to kind of like the situation that you're in. You guys have found a way to navigate and keep your head above water despite having some pretty significant injuries impact your pitching staff. I guess I would ask this, since Link did say recently that, you guys still believe you're getting guys back. Mm-hmm. Specifically, Leiter and Whitaker are what people want to know about. I'll throw Ben Barrett in there. I know he threw 2 pitches, but I'll ask you about all 3. What is realistic? What's a realistic role is probably a better way of me asking this question for those guys coming back after more than a month off.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be realistic to throw those guys in there 80, 90, 100 pitches. But I do think there's going to be, realistic them coming back throwing 1, 2, maybe even 3 innings. And if you get those guys, if you get all 3 of those guys throwing 1, 2, and 3 innings, like they can hop on maybe 7 innings of a game, which would be huge. So for us, it's kind of a fluid situation. It changes daily. If I would have commented on, let's say, Leiter 3 weeks ago, like it's changed I feel like it changes every day for the last 3 weeks. But he's in a good situation. Works, we know he's going to get back. He's going to pitch. There's no season-ending surgeries needed or anything like that. So for us, it's just kind of day to day, making sure he can get through kind of the pain tolerance and what he needs to be doing. And honestly, like pitching is different than most things. Like, I feel like some injuries you can play through. Pitching is so precise. Like the difference between a ball and strike is 1/1000th of a degree of your finger. So for him, we want to make sure he's healthy. So we get the best version of him. We don't want him to limp out there not healthy.
And so for this would probably be true for all the guys. Like the order of that, I think Link referenced yesterday, right? It's health. It's then you ramp them back up. What's that look like? Like when you're ramping a guy back up, you just said it's not realistic to expect them to come back and pitch, 90 pitches like a starter would. So what does the ramp up look like? What are you looking to see? Is it velocity? Is it being able to repeat? What is it?
A lot of times it's workload and how many pitches they're throwing in a week's time, and then in a 2, 3, and 4 weeks time. It's acute, chronic, their workloads. But what you're doing is this kind of like a video game. Let's say you got 6 levels. They need to pass each level before they can go to the next level and the next level. And so behind the scenes, that's what's happening. There's a 6-level progression that they're trying to get through. If you're not behind the scenes, it's kind of frustrating because you feel like you just kind of get ran around the bush on what's happening. So, but for these guys, the first step might be playing catch back to 60 feet. The second step might be playing catch back to 90 feet. The third step, playing catch to 120. Then it might be 25 throws. The fourth step might be 50 throws. The next step might be 60 throws. And then you get them onto the mound, throw them 15 pitches. And then that goes well. Then you throw them 25 to 30 pitches. That goes well. Then you throw them versus hitters for 15. That goes well. Then you put them in a game. And that's kind of the ramp up and what it looks like. And they have to pass each level. And it's kind of a fluid situation that you're assessing daily.
Yeah, when you lay it out like that, I think it gives people a better understanding of how arduous it is and how many steps there are to it and why it would take as long as it does. Because, typical fan just wants their guys back. They just know we don't have a full deck here. We're not playing with a full deck, and you get frustrated. But, I wanted you to be able to lay it out there like, hey, this is what they have to do for us to even – and you guys care. I mean, obviously, you care about their health more than you do whether or not they can pitch this weekend. You got to make sure they're right.
Absolutely. Like Connor Whitaker, like behind the scenes, like you guys are just like, okay, we haven't seen Whitaker. Is he coming back? Like he's through step 3. Like we're getting ready to start step 4 with him. And it's been good through 3 steps. And so we're getting close. We're getting closer and closer with him every day. Ben Barrett, we ran back out at Duke. The velocity wasn't what we thought it would be, given what we saw in live hitter versus pitcher. He threw a bullpen this past week. The velocity looked back to where we thought it should be. So we're hoping that maybe moving forward now, he can trust, that he's healthy and those things. And so, that's kind of in a nutshell what it's looking like behind the scenes, I guess.
The situation with Ben, Coach, is interesting. Like you guys immediately recognized you didn't like what you were seeing. Like that was, grand opening, grand closing. That happened very quickly.
Yeah.
So is that a case? Okay, we're looking at the gun. We're going to see, I don't like that. I don't like that. He's got to go.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty evident from the warm-up pitches that it didn't look right. And he kind of rolled a slow breaker in there. And I think the second best hitter in the country, Miller, he rolled him over the shortstop on the second pitch. And we were all like, he made it look easy. But yeah, we're trying to assess, and there's 2 pieces of this. There's the physical and there's the mental. And so, just being healthy, like guys have to trust that they're healthy. And we told Ben after that, like, hey man, if you don't feel healthy, you don't feel good. Like we're not asking you to pitch at 70%, And so for Ben, I think we're still working through. And honestly, he had kind of a quick ramp up. And I think the intent is hard if you're not facing hitters and you're not in a game. So that was the first time he was in those settings. And I think as we get into this, I think it'll continue to get better and better. And we're gonna have to find spots to keep running him out.
Florida State pitching coach Micah Posey joining us on the Jeff Cameron Show. It's a tough year for pitchers. You look around the country, offenses are exploding again. College baseball is ruled by the home run yet again. What's the reason for that?
I think there's a lot of reasons. The strike zone is obviously very small. It's a tight strike zone. And not only is it a tight strike zone, there's pitches in the strike zone that are getting balled. I won't say which game, but there's a game this weekend where we had 10 pitches in the strike zone get balled in the strike zone, not on the edge or the corner or anything like that. So,
I know which game it was.
So you take that, and then the guys are more physical, they're stronger. With COVID, now they're older. You have guys that have played 5 years of college baseball. I think the balls changed about 5 or 6 years ago. The balls seem to be different, closer to what a Major League Baseball would be. And then you kind of put that into a cocktail of, and then everybody talks about pitchers not throwing strikes. Like, I think it all goes into that. Sometimes the guys are, trying not to give up the long ball, or, the umpire starts squeezing you, and then you throw a ball down the middle and you get balled. That now you lose confidence of where you need to throw the baseball. But I think there's just a lot that goes into that.
There was a game I'm curious about levels of patience and frustration that coaches deal with. You guys are pros. You've been around, you've seen it all. But I always wonder when I'm watching a game, there've been a couple games this year, and we won't get into specifics, where the strike zone was absurd. How hard is it for you to bite your tongue in those moments? Because guys are battling, and guys are getting squeezed, and that's, if you reverse it as an offensive player, we've all watched Angel Hernandez do his dumbass stuff, and you've got guys getting, rung up on pitches a foot and a half outside in the other box. I can't compete if you're doing that. You won't even allow me to compete. So I come back, flip it. You're a pitcher. You're hitting the corners. These guys all can hit. This is a great conference, and they're getting squeezed. How hard is it for you not to lose it?
It's tough. A lot of times you just try to ask the question, like, hey, where's that missing at? So at least they know, like, hey, there was a disagreement in what's being called a strike and not strike. Sometimes it's hard too. Like, you get to the backside of these weekends and these offenses are exploding on Sunday, and you got a young pitcher out there who's throwing quality pitches to the edges, and they're always balls. Now you're forcing that guy into the middle of the plate, and we all know, like, that's not where good things happen. So it's definitely frustrating, but at the same time, we're all going through it. It's not just unique to Florida State and our pitchers. I think every staff is going through it, and there's a level playing field with that. And, these umpires, they call in a game, they're calling over 200 pitches. So if that guy takes a pitch off, or he, he's not locked in for one pitch and he balls it, like, that could turn around and bite somebody in the rear end pretty hard on either side of the baseball. So it's not just us. I think everybody's going through it, and, we're just trying to work through it best we can.
Some ways it's been interesting. You've probably learned maybe a lot more than you wanted to learn about your bullpen this year because of the situation. What have you learned? I would ask about specifics, maybe about one guy in particular, because I felt like Tejada had great stuff in a game that didn't matter the other day when we were down by 10, but that stuff is there. I know you see it all the time. What goes into working with these kids that you've had come out of the bullpen? Some have succeeded, some have failed, some have gotten back out there and found a way to overcome whatever nerves they had, others not as much. You've had to learn a lot about these guys. When do you feel comfortable with certain guys?
Yeah, I think, the mental makeup goes into it as much as the physical stuff. So you might see 95, 96, 97, but it's the mentality, and are they attacking hitters, and are they going to do it when the chips are down? Ox, beginning of the year, it was the same boat. Like, he goes out there in a couple big spots, and now his confidence grows. I don't think it takes much. It's just maybe a couple outings before you start to gain confidence, and he starts to gain confidence. But a lot of it starts with the pitcher. Like, you can tell if they're confident, then we're going to be confident in them, and it starts with their self. But definitely in college baseball and us, consistency has been kind of the thing that has lacked at times for some guys. And so they might have one good outing and then another bad one. And so you're looking for them to put together a string of 2 or 3, and then also doing it in a big spot that kind of matters. And so Yoel's in a good spot. He's trending in the right direction. I thought against Duke, he made quality pitches. Like, he wasn't just throwing, hard by those guys. Like, he was putting it in good spots. He's pitching in, down, and away. The slider, he's getting it down when he needed to. So now it's going to be, doing that in a big spot, which we're going to need him for sure. Like, definitely need him. So
yeah, I thought if there was something good that could come out of the tough way that the series ended, it was that, right? You got to see him pitching, really pitching.
Yeah, and he looks like a lot of these guys, it might take him a little bit to settle in. Like, he looked settled, he looked normal, like he didn't look phased. So now it's going to be okay, building off that and having another one, and then doing it in a big spot, maybe a 1-run game late in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and those things. So
last couple of things, Coach, and I'll let you go. I'd be remiss, but just how good has Jamie been this year? And did you see him emerging to be this kind of an ace?
Yeah, we internally, we kind of saw it evolving. The fall, there were some slow spots. And then the early preseason, the spring, I think from the very first outing he threw live hitter versus pitcher, I think we all kind of saw this could be a special arm, and it could be a special year, and not just good, like special. And he has been everything that we've needed him to be and more. And, couldn't be more proud of the steps he's taken this year. And we also know there's still a lot of games to be had here, and that he's still kind of writing his story.
Another guy writing his story is Carson Dorsey, who we saw early in the year. I think it was the extended outing against JU, right? Wasn't it? And everybody saw the stuff.
Yeah.
And I think just listening to the fans and watching those games, I remember thinking, man, that stuff's electric. If he knows where it's going, he's going to get a lot of people out.
Yeah.
But he's figured out where it's going, and now you've extended to the point where he's a legitimate starter for you every weekend.
Yeah, Carson's shown the ability to pitch, mix 4 pitches for strikes. He's throwing fastballs to multiple quadrants of the zone. There's times this year where he wasn't pitching. He was just trying to beat guys with stuff. And to his credit, he's learned, like, you have to pitch at this level. You can't just blow a fastball by hitters at will. And, these guys are good hitters. And so he's learned how to mix his pitches. And, he's definitely a guy that's evolved over the last 3 weeks. And it's been pretty fun to watch.
Fun talking to you as always, Coach. I really appreciate it. We'll hope to do it again as the postseason gets started. Big series this weekend at Hauser, obviously starting tonight against NC State. I look forward to it. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
All right, Jeff. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Take care. That's Micah Posey. He is the pitching coach at Florida State, and he has had to, at times, piece it together because of those injuries. Done a really good job with it, too. As you see, Florida State is finding ways to win series against high-quality teams. Florida State currently top 8 RPI. You're looking at playing home games in the postseason as it is right now. Should be fun down the stretch. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.